Council for Strategic Affairs Distinguished Lecture Series. My
Morning,
name
sir.
is Dr. Adityanjee. Today is Saturday, July 25th, 2026. It is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in United States and 7:30 p.m. in India. Our distinguished speaker today is Major General Harsha Kakar or Kakar, whichever way you pronounce it. Those of you who used our link probably saw this flyer. The topic for today's distinguished lecture is West Asia Geopolitical Conundrum. And we'll hear from Major General Harsha Kakar about this particular topic. Just to reorient yourself, here is a map of the West Asia, which is colloquially in the West called Middle East, but actual geographical location is West Asia.
Adityanjee, your presentation is
Yes,
not visible.
it's not visible. Okay. Now, do you want to, I have
I'll
given you
be
the
showing it.
PowerPoint. Do you want to?
I'll be showing the map.
Okay. All right. CSA imparts education in the field of international relations. We foster discussion, discussion, dialogue, and debate on geopolitical issues. We encourage strategic studies in general to raise the level of awareness. CSA condemns terrorism in all its forms worldwide. We promote people-to-people contact and track to diplomacy. We aim to contribute towards world peace and prosperity. We will encourage you to subscribe, like, and share our YouTube channel. We are registered as a 501c3 organization with the IRS in United States, and our US-based audience, we encourage you to support us financially. We have a monthly roundtable discussion on second Saturday of each month. We have a monthly guest lecture by a domain expert on fourth Saturday of each month. So these are our regular activities. We have a fellowship training program for college students in strategic studies. And this is the picture of our distinguished speaker today. He was commissioned into Regiment of Artillery in June of 1979 and finally superannuated after 36 years of service in March of 2015 as a Major General. He had a number of appointments in every part of the country. He has a very extensive resume, which is available online. So I'm not going to, spend more time on his resume because you see the real thing. Currently, he is based in Lucknow. He writes very extensively for newspapers, magazines. He appears on various TV channels, etc., very widely published, very widely respected. And I'm very proud to say that Major General Harsha Kakar is a distinguished fellow, senior fellow at the Council for Strategic Affairs, and he has been on our platform several times. So again, I'm showing a map. If it is visible, it is the map focusing on Strait of Hormuz. And this is a map focusing on Bab al-Mandab. Again, if you can see the map. And of course, I'm not going to speak on the topic, but there is a trifecta of issues here. One is Iran, second is Donald J. Trump, and third is Benjamin Netanyahu, which is driving this West Asia geopolitical conundrum. I will leave further things to Major General Harsha Kakar. So yes, there is a chessboard, and it is affecting the entire world. So we are seeing the moves on day-to-day basis. Before I hand over the platform to our distinguished speaker, please mute yourself to avoid noise interference. Please change your cell phone setting to vibration mode. Please do not interrupt our esteemed speaker. We will have question and answers after the speaker has finished his presentation. All questions are moderated through chat room. Please be very specific and precise in asking a question. Don't send lengthy comments in the form of a question. The event is also being live streamed on our YouTube channel. We are making a recording. It will be later on available on our website as well as on YouTube. So again, please subscribe, like, and share the CSA YouTube channel. Again, we are registered as a 501c3 organization with the IRS in United States. Please donate and support to CSA. And without further ado, I'm going to now hand over the platform to Major General Harsha Kakar. So, sir, the platform is yours. Please start with your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Adityanjee, for having given me a chance to be here and to talk. I hope the presentation is visible on the screen.
Yes, I can see.
All right. The topic is rather interesting because today West Asia is in the limelight in every form. It's impacting not only India, but it's impacting a large part of the world. Let me start with the map which you were trying to show. An area of confusion. A look at this would tell you that there are disputes that have existed here which still continue to exist. Turkey, Israel, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Iran, Iraq. I mean, you just name it. There is literally no similarity. And I'm just going to flash through a few slides while I take you through what exactly has this area seen. It's a mix of oil-rich and non-oil states. There are countries where there is no shortage of employment, and there are countries where there is massive unemployment. There are monarchies, dictatorships, authoritarian theocracies, so-called democracies. Iraq being an example, and also a democracy. There are proxies in the area, Hezbollah, Houthis. There are factions in Iraq and Syria. There are factions within Jordan. I mean, there is so much that's happening within. There's a conflict of religion, Jews and Islam, Shia and Sunni. But there are basically two facts that emerge. The US is the preeminent power in the region, and Israel undoubtedly is the most powerful nation militarily so far in the region. Look at the flux, and just taking it back in recent times, Saudi Arabia and Qatar, 2017 to 21, break in ties. Saudi Arabia and Iran, 2016 to 23. As far as Yemen and Sudan are concerned, Saudi Arabia and UAE back different sides. There are tensions between them. There is disagreements with Saudi Arabia, which is why UAE decided to walk out of the OPEC in May this year. Iran and UAE have disputes over 3 Persian islands. These are claimed by the UAE but controlled by Iran. There's a perpetual fight for the caliphate. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Iran. Turkey and Saudi Arabia are both trying to pull in Pakistan. You'd realize that it was Turkey that backed Pakistan during Sindhu. And today, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have signed a defense pact. Iran today, there's supposed to be an agreement between Iran, the IRGC head, and Asim Munir on move of oil, which possibly could lead to an agreement between the US and Iran. Abraham Accords. So far, UAE and Bahrain have signed them. Iran is a sworn enemy of Israel. The US has late Trump's latest announcement 2 days back that if Saudi Arabia wants the nuclear deal, it must sign the Abraham Accords. Look at the numerous conflicts. I'm just looking at it from 1979. The Iran Revolution, Iran-Iraq War of 80 to 88, Israel-Lebanon, 1982, invasion of Kuwait by Saddam, the Intifada in Palestine, the Iraq war, instability possibly continues till today. Arab Spring, the Syrian civil war, which concluded just 2 years ago, ISIS, Israel Hamas, Israel Lebanon, still ongoing. US, Israel, Iran, 25 and now again 26. The region has only seen violence in some form, disagreements, tensions. That is where the state has been, and that is the story of West Asia. Let's look at Iran's nuclear program, the crux of the problem for which the US and Israel are involved. When it began its program, it was under the Shah. Assistance flowed from the US. It signed the NPT in 68 to 70. 74, the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran was created. European nation came in and established commercial reactors. Iranian Revolution, everything changed. The Ahmad Plan in the 2000s, where basically Iran was looking at creating nuclear weapons, exposed. 5 years to get the JCPOA in, finally signed, and then Trump walks out of the JCPOA in 2018. Now again, the aim is to restop Iran's nuclear program, which already had come to a standstill in 2018. And look at what's happening in the conflict. The war aims have been changing. Started with regime change, went on to destruction of military power, went on to opening of Hormuz, non-nuclear weapons. Today, there's no mention of regime change. Military power destruction. Today will be the 14th night of the strikes. It's back to Hormuz Straits. Initially also was to stop its ability to support its proxies. That has turned out to be wrong, because today it's the Houthis that have joined the Iranians and are placing limitations on move of Saudi oil. So finally, where are we now? And look at Trump himself. In fact, it was very interesting when he made two statements within 30 minutes. He first said that nobody can charge on Hormuz. 30 minutes later, he made a statement that US will be the guardian and we will charge 20%. 5 hours later, he again reversed. There's a total state of confusion as to what exactly should be the end state. Where should things conclude? Where are we now? We're in the second phase of the war. The first phase was till the MOU was negotiated. After that, there was a few days of peace. Everyone thought that this is where it should be. But again, it was broken. There was no way from the beginning anyone could expect that in 2 months, talks on Iran's nuclear program will conclude. The JCPOA took 5 years. Iran, as a theocracy, is in no rush. It is Trump who's in a rush because he's just got a tenure of another 2.5 years left. Whatever he's got to do, he's got to prove it within that period of time. Iran can continue delaying it. There have been reports that I think even today, Trump claims victory. He says Iran wants to talk. He claims that Iran has been approaching them for talks. On the other side, Iran says Trump approached us through Iraq and we said no. Where is the truth? Nobody really knows. Iran has realized a factor flowing in from Vietnam, flowing in from Afghanistan. All you have to do is stand tall. Accept offer for talks. That's all that you need to do. Secondly, as it's happened earlier, the US will run out of steam. The question is, as time passes, the patience of the US and its ability to continue to maintain operations tends to reduce. We in the armed forces are aware that when you maintain a deployment well out, we are maintaining additional forces out in Ladakh and elsewhere. It's a massive cost to the economy. You've got a whole fleet deployed. You moved in additional troops from Korea, you moved them from Philippines. You're not covering it in your cost, but they are a major running cost. That's an added burden. The expenditure on bombs, the expenditure on ammunition, the expenditure on aviation fuel, all that's get added. That's its last major bargaining point. If it surrenders to the US, it's akin to surrendering to Israel. Unacceptable to its own people. Air power alone can never bring about a surrender. You can push a nation for talks, but you cannot push a nation for surrender. Ultimately, boots on the ground, which is why the concept of operations being launched by the US are changing. It has now begun concentrating along the coastline. It may either go in for Karg Island as a temporary measure, it may go in for some place along the coast. The aim is you need to create an environment where you can have some boots on the ground. At the same time, it's a massive risk. What if it fails? What if there are high casualties? So there are factors in play, but air power alone is not going to bring about a surrender. The Houthis now getting involved is an added issue because pressure on the US is going to build even from the Saudi side. It was as it is building from the nations in West Asia, that is the UAE and the others there, because they're being targeted is an indication that they don't want the economy hit, they don't want the oil infrastructure hit. Today, a Saudi oil infrastructure, I think one of the Saudi refineries was hit today, from what I could gather from social media, by the Houthis. Now that continues. Will it draw Pakistan in? Will it further expand the conflict? Is something we'll come to know in the next few days. The policy of deterrence, which is what the US believed, is something which has undergone a major flux and is an interesting study in some possible time frame in the future. Trump's initial statement at the commencement of operations, which he wanted to repeat of what he had done in Venezuela, we will take control of Iranian oil infrastructure, was the first major blunder because that set back the entire hold that he had. It's always followed a policy of deterrence by punishment. In Iran's case, it has not worked. Today, he's come down to threatening to blow up power stations, bridges, and possibly even nuclear power plants and everything else. But that has still not pushed Iran down. Iran's deterrence by denial, which is something which has restricted the US to only stick to airstrikes. Its fear of ground operations, it's still contemplating what to do. Iran's policy of deterrence by punishment to nations in the region has worked, which is one of the reasons why pressure is being applied on the US, as also the US has been compelled to move its major assets out from Iran's neighborhood into Jordan and Israel. Israel's policy of deterrence by punishment against Iran has been partially effective. Today, Iran is avoiding involving Israel in the conflict. It's continuing with the US, but it's not pulling in Israel. Similarly, Israel has been able to push this policy down hard on both the Hezbollah as also the Hamas. So therefore, this policy has had mixed impacts on all sides. What's the way forward? Islamabad history, the Islamabad MOU is history. Where there is major distrust, as it exists between the US and Iran, it cannot end in any direct talks. There has to be somebody who will have to negotiate. A similar story that's happening between Russia and Ukraine. There is no way that they will talk direct. There has to be a negotiator to bridge the gaps. A negotiator has to be one who's accepted by all. Today, as per what reports were flowing in today, China has now stepped in from behind the scenes. That is the one that's pushing and is Park in the forefront. This possibly with China's push, because especially with Hormuz closed, China is also hit. Possibly with China's push, we may see a move forward. Other than that, no other nation is going to get easily. Even if a ceasefire is restored, I mean, a ceasefire comes into play and talks commence, what will be the scenario in West Asia? Will there be peace and stability? Will there be trust? Will Iran again get back into its relations as to what it had? Possibly unlike. The region has had too many differences. It's had too much of engagement. It's faced a lot. Point is, what will be its future? It's something which is very difficult to say. But one fact is, it's unlikely that West Asia will see peace again for a long time. And with this, I've come to an end. The aim was to keep it short so that we have time for question and answers.
Thank you very much indeed, Major General Kakar, for a very, comprehensive presentation that leaves a lot of room for discussion, time for discussion. That was the idea. I don't see any actually questions right now in the chat room, so I'll start with a question of myself.
Shall I ask if you permit?
And the question is, it's very easy to initiate a war. And time and again, we realize that it's very difficult to end the war. And talking about United States, because that's a main actor currently in starting and possibly prolonging this war, there was something called Powell Doctrine. Powell Doctrine was that you need to have massive and overwhelming force. You have to have very discrete, definable objectives. And third thing is that you must have an exit strategy. Do you want to comment upon the current US Secretary of War having anything analogous to Powell Doctrine?
See, overwhelming power you have, but the nature of warfare between the time when Colin Powell spoke and today has seen a vast change. You look at Russia, Ukraine. Overwhelming military power of Russia has got it. Controlling 20% of Ukrainian territory, you can't move forward. The entire area of contact between the two sides is almost a no-go zone. Today, very cheap equipment like drones and missiles also are able to change or impact even the most powerful adversary. Second, when you are launching a war away from home, and here you're launching it halfway across the world, to look at the impact of logistics to maintain a sort of force level that you've got there, it's not easy. To maintain, to sustain the war there is a massive expense. You were looking for a shot in and a shot out, which is what Netanyahu had promised Trump. But unluckily, he had misjudged the Iran piece. One thing to note in any country, when the nation is attacked, external or the internal differences tend to vanish. The nation tends to unify, which is what was possibly misjudged because they presumed that the riots that had taken place in January would be repeated in February, March. But it was the reverse. So possibly the Powell Doctrine was valid at a time but with everything changing, distances involved. Even Vietnam, the US was across the Pacific. Here you're halfway across the world. So there's a world of a difference in where you're operating and the other.
Thank you. Before I start taking questions from the audience, we have a couple of very distinguished people in the audience, and I'll invite them to give their comments on this particular topic. I'll start with Brigadier Arun Sehgal, who is a member of our International Advisory Board, and as I call, Dean of Strategic Studies in India. Brigadier Sehgal, would you like to give some comments on this particular topic? I know you are very, very closely monitoring this situation. Brigadier Sehgal, please. I don't see a response from him. Brigadier Sehgal, are you there? Okay. I'm going to invite Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor. Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, can you please come on the camera and give your comments?
Thank you very much, Dr. Adityanjee. And thank you to General Kakar for such a brilliant and very lucid analysis with so many extremely useful points in some detail. But, what I want to understand from General Kakar is how will it play out in the longer term if you have to gaze into your crystal ball in terms of the threat that Iran poses as a great, and after Pakistan, I think it is the next best epicenter of terrorism for the world in terms of its support for Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah, etc. And all the violations of the Vienna Convention and the Geneva Convention and all the attacks on diplomats, etc. And being a fundamentalist sort of country, in future, if it gets the nuclear weapon, how does the threat to India also increase from the perspective that Iran has never supported India in the United Nations, even on issues like Kashmir, it has always voted for Pakistan. Thirdly, in all these discussions and agreements, what I see a very fundamental flaw, which I'm still trying to understand or grapple with, that there is no mention anywhere that, a country like Iran has to first recognize the existence of the state of Israel and also agree to the existence of Jews to life, because like in the charter for Hamas, they say that no Jew will be allowed to live, every Jew will be killed, Israel cannot exist, we'll wipe out Israel from the face of the earth. Why can't there be a foundational preamble which all the sides have to agree to, that Israel, there is a long history to it. Both sides have their own claims to the land and to the history. And while the Jews say that they predate the, coming of Islam by thousands of years, and they were there in the entire area for a long time, and now they are sandwiched and squeezed with Muslim nations on all sides, and they have a sort of a right to existence. So they have to make do with whatever way they can in terms of building buffer zones, etc. But on the other hand, the Palestinians are also in a bad shape in Gaza in particular. And they do not seem to have any succor from getting any, refuge or support from most of the Islamic countries, even for resettlement. So, and as you said, you've highlighted very clearly all the conflicts in the area. But on the other hand, you have very brilliant initiatives like the IMAC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, which may not come to fruition for many years with the state of affairs in that region. And then finally, about the US, I've seen US intervene very effectively, though very illegally, in countries like Cambodia, in countries where I was ambassador, they had deposed the prevailing government and the monarchy of Norodom Sihanouk with a coup where they put in his cousin, General Lol Nol, into power. In Chile, where they deposed Allende, they had him killed. And then they put Pinochet in power, General Pinochet, with whom again they had a lot of disagreement. But they had a toolkit which they used in Ukraine, for example, to overthrow Yanukovych government by putting in more than $5 billion for street demonstrations. And then we have seen similar things in so many parts of the world, Iraq and Libya and Syria, etc.
So, Ambassador Kapoor,
what
let
is the
General
situation now?
Kakar
What is the situation you
respond
see
to
in
your
Iran now in terms of CIA being successful in using any of the other toolkits?
See, the first fact is that the Iran-Israel relations are not going to change. It will continue its support to its proxies because its proxies are its first line of defense. Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis are the first line. Until they were cleared, until they were degraded, Iran was not open for attack. It was only after handling them could Iran be tackled. So they will continue, and Iran is going to look at rebuilding. There is no way historically, when you've taught your people for the last 50 years that Israel cannot exist, you cannot sign an agreement tomorrow and say Israel will exist. The same problem that Pakistan faces, Iran will face. As far as nuclear weapons are concerned, the aim is to prevent Iran from having it. The world is unwilling to let Iran have it. So definitely any agreement, this will become a priority. The monitoring, the restrictions imposed will prevent it. If the US is signing a deal with Saudi Arabia, again the same story, but it's not going to let it go in for nuclear weapons. So this is where it is likely to stand. Relations, expecting it, the only concern is Iran had mended its ties with the entire Middle East nations. These have now got fractured. Will that get reset? That is an aspect which will possibly is questionable, but there is a possibility of it being reset. But definitely not with Israel. You cannot change your people's mindset overnight.
Thank you, General Kakar. I'll still try to get Brigadier Sehgal if he's there. I see his name, but Brigadier Sehgal, are you ready to make any comments on this lecture? Okay, I don't think he is responding. There's a question in the chat room. I will only take that particular question from Saptarishi Basu, who is a merchant mariner. What should be India's stance in this conflict? Because it is placed between hammer and a hard place.
See, there is no way we are going to get onto one side and against the other. For us, both have major value. You're looking at Iran because with Iran, unless you have ties, you're actually heading for Iran-Pak collusion. You're using Chabahar port. You need it. The Iranian side of the port has been damaged from what I could gather, not the Indian side. Ultimately, in the long term, you need the oil. You need a lot from there. Israel is your arms supplier. I think it's best we stay out of these conflicts. Yes, if approached, we are an ideal nation to mediate, but we are unwilling to put our butt ahead into it and offer to mediate because you have no, I mean, there is actually no sort of surety that whatever you do is going to work. And ideally, just stay out of it. Keep talking of peace and don't get involved.
So may I just follow up with a short question, with your permission?
Dr. Basu, can we just go in sequence as we are going later on? If there's time, we'll go for follow-up question. There is a question from Dr. Shrikant Chopra. Is it possible to replace current Iranian regime? And if yes, how?
Very doubtful. The Iranian regime, unluckily, I mean, or I would say as of now, is very, very stable. The only way it would be replaced is if it breaks ranks with the IRGC, which actually runs Iran. Like the Pak army is running Pakistan, the IRGC controls Iran. Most of the industries in Iran are run by the IRGC. So there is no way that the entire leadership can be changed. If you change it, you're going to get another IRGC-backed leadership. So that's going to be the status as far as Iran is concerned. People coming up, rising in anger, very unlikely, at least in the near future. They've indicated as to how tough they can get in case they need to suppress anything. We blame the leadership, but a large portion of the action is the IRGC.
We do have a non-proliferation expert in this audience. That is Professor Reshmi Kazi, who has been writing on non-proliferation issues. Professor Kazi, if I invite you into the discussion, would you like to comment on Iran's nuclear program? What is the status currently? If you would like to, Professor Kazi.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Adityanjee, for inviting me. And of course, thank you for that brilliant lecture. Very well. So you've put all the major points out there. On this question, on Iran's nuclear program, we understand that on technical grounds, Iran's nuclear program is still far from, reaching the acceptable level and degree of, manufacturing the weapons, because the pre-war status that we before the attacks began, the pre-war status indicated very clearly that Iran's uranium percentage was at 60%. It was pegged at 60%, which is not a bomb making, capability. So technically, Iran, we can say that it has still not reached the level where it can, or it has the bomb. But at the same time, it is also substantial, credible reports have indicated that there are standards where the safeguard measures, the IAEA mandated safeguard measures, have not been sort of, met. Those standards have not been met by some of them, have not been met by Iran, and there are traces which indicate that probably Iran may not have fulfilled all the criteria that are required to assure and assuage the international community that it is not, or that it is, still committed to its non-proliferation commitments. So, but at this stage, it can be said that it does have the uranium. It is believed to have 400, kgs of this enriched uranium, but that is again 60%. And I would also say that the JCPOA, the 2015 JCPOA that was signed between US and during Obama's regime, that was one of the most, I would say, concrete and effective arms control measure that was made with Iran. But subsequently in 2018, as we see that US under President Trump, that was the first stint of his presidentship when he pulled out of this deal. And I think that was a major blow as far as arms control agreement, or rather arms control measure. I mean, this whole architecture, arms control architecture as it stands now, with the last vestiges of in the form of New START treaty gone, the architecture is very weak. But my own, assessment here is, in the absence of JCPOA, Iran's nuclear dilemma, I mean, it has become all the more complicated. And now it stands a lot on the international community, the non-proliferation regime, and of course, the United States. Of course, Iran as well, to see how much and how far they will sort of, agree to stand up to the commitments of consolidating and strengthening, far from weakening the non-proliferation regime. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kazi. General Kakar, would you like to make any comments?
Not against an expert. I think she's covered it very well, and there is no doubt that it was still away from the bomb, which is why they said that unless we act, they will move too close to it. But I think they've been pushed further behind. The only thing I'd like to just make one remark. You see, the remark is not on what she said. The remark is on what the US and Israel have been saying. Last year, June, when they launched the attacks on Iran, they said Iran is now years away from making a bomb. This year, February, when they went, they said, if we don't go now, they'll have a bomb. So either you failed last year or you thought the world was a fool when you started this year. I mean, that only they would know because they were the ones who did it. But this is a contradiction in their own words.
Thank you, General Kakar. Again, I am fully in agreement with Professor Kazi's comments, but I'll bring two other aspects of this that probably we have not talked about. One is the reason for US withdrawal from JCPOA in 2018. I think initially Trump, in his first term, did endorse, was forced, because there was a periodic certification, was forced to certify, yes, Iran does not have a bomb, or it's not taking, it was under IAEA, inspectors were there. The problem was, as I said, the trifecta of Iran, Netanyahu, and Donald Trump. Because at that time, Netanyahu was able to convince Trump that it is not enough to focus on Iran's nuclear program, you have to focus on the Iranian missiles, because they are proliferating the missiles. And that was the reason Trump, under influence of Netanyahu, actually pulled out of JCPOA. And the genie is out of the bottle since then. So that is definitely one issue. And even when this war was started on February 28th, there were multiple objectives: regime change, eliminating the nuclear program and eliminating the missile program. And when you saw the MOU, Trump himself said that they are allowed to keep some missiles for their own protection. So there's a total mismatch there. Again, you have to understand the impact of one leader of a country, affected country, has on the leader of a superpower who got seduced into starting this war. That is an important aspect of this particular conflict. The second, nobody has talked about. Yes, Iran was enriching. Yes, Iran was given. Who gave the centrifuges to Iran, the technology? It was Pakistan. When Iran started having the centrifuges, they were from Pakistan. The technology was provided by Pakistan. But also, the late Supreme Leader Khamenei, who has been assassinated, had put a fatwa that nuclear weapons are against humanity. And the stated policy of Iranian state was dualistic, that we shall not, procure nuclear weapons, but as a signatory to NPT, we have every right to do peaceful use of nuclear power and medicine, this, that, and we have a right to uranium enrichment. There was hypocrisy in that, but there was a red line that we will not weaponize. And that was ignored. So you are in a conundrum right now. The genie is out of the bottle and we cannot put it back. So that is my comment on that. But let me go on to other questions that are pouring in. There's a question from Professor Anup Kumar. Do you think that IRGC is not allowing resolution because it knows that the day the issue resolves, it will be the beginning of the IRGC's fall? Very
I
smart
don't
question,
know.
Professor.
I really don't know. I mean, IRGC literally controls the country. There is no way anything will move against it. But whether any agreement will lead to the IRGC's fall, I have my doubts. Because you need stability, and stability is only being provided by them. So I don't think that is likely to happen.
Okay. Next is a list of 3 questions that are interrelated from Dr. Saptarshi Basu. He wanted a follow-up question. First comment he's making that Iran has no incentive to denuclearize.
There
Second
is
is
no, in
especially
fact,
when we
I
see
would
the trajectory of North Korea, and he is again reinforcing the fact that Pakistan, assisted them with the proliferation. Go
you
ahead,
heard
please.
Iran say a number of times, if Israel can have a bomb, why not us? I mean, but yes, the fact is Iran did sign the NPT, but the NPT was signed by the Shah of Iran, not by the current regime. So there's a world of a difference. And for them, they also realize that the moment you have a nuclear weapon, your safety is assured, which is what is the status of North Korea. So let's be very clear, that's what they're looking at. And why is the US against it? Because if Iran has a nuclear weapon, Israel is at stake. Its interest is basically there. And it has no incentive. That is one of the things Iran has been saying also, which is what they're trying to come down to. And ultimately, the agreement is going to come down to peaceful nuclear energy. Though they keep saying we don't have interest in a nuclear weapon, but there is. Ultimately, it's going to come down to peaceful nuclear energy and strict monitoring. And I think that is going to be the end of the war.
Okay, let me see if there are any more questions by anyone else. So there are no other questions. I'll make another comment. I fully agree with you, General Kakar, that the current situation, it does not look likely that there's going to be a resolution. I want to remind our viewers that the first Iran-Iraq war that was started in 1980 or 81, within a couple of years of Islamic Revolution, that was started by Saddam Hussein at the encouragement of United States because they wanted the Islamic regime to go away. That lasted 9 years. Lasted 9 years. There is no iota of possibility that a nation of 93 million people, that is the resident power in West Asia, and has a very smart, intellectual, educational, and defense infrastructure, is going to fold itself up in a few weeks or few months. The delusion that United States current administration had, that in 3 days we could extract Maduro from Venezuela, within a week this regime will fold and there'll be a new people will come to the street. That was the delusion. General Kakar, any comments?
I fully agree. I fully agree with you, and I don't dispute it. Because if you read back at the story as to how the thing began, Netanyahu gave a presentation to Trump. Mark Carney was against the war. He said what you're listening from him is not reality. But somehow he got carried away by the belief that the moment we knock off the top leadership, we will give you the location. We'll knock off the top leadership, and the Mossad will incite the Iranian opposition to rise, which will lead to an overthrow of the regime. Which is why Trump made that first statement of his that this is the chance that Iranians have got. We are giving you a chance now, rise and take over your country. And his second most contradictory statement, we are taking over Iranian oil. It was this which was basically flowing from Netanyahu. It's been 4 months. He's still looking at the dream of the first words.
Okay. I'm going to invite a couple of people from the audience for very specific comments. First, I will invite Mr. Ankush Bhandari, who is a member of Board of Directors of Council for Strategic Affairs. And he is very deeply involved in studying the current administration and all. So, Ankush, do you want to make any comments upon the current administration strategy here in this particular war? Ankush?
Yeah, namaste everybody, and thanks Adityanjee for inviting me. I think what the Trump administration is doing, somebody has to step up and do it. We never spoke that we already have two rogue neighbors who have nuclear weapons, China and Pakistan. If Iran also gets it, we have the third one in our vicinity, as far as India is concerned. And as far as US and the other world is concerned, I think we call them proxies. These are the terrorist organization. Let's call spade a spade. And that's what the Trump administration has done. They have called spade the spade. And I 100% agree that they have to tackle these first than the Iran. Because if you cut the Iran wings, Iran will be no more. Instead of going to the war directly with the Iran, they would have gone and tackled these terrorist organizations than directly impacting, because a war is a war. We are not going to get anything else except the dead bodies. But I think there should be some change, and Trump administration has given a lot of chance to the Iran to come on the negotiating table, which every statesman would have given. So my understanding is that yes, there is a need a little bit of a change to be done in the strategy. But on the other hand, I completely echo with what the Trump administration has done. Somebody has to do to maintain the overall peace. People here can say that America is fighting the war for Israel from the last 70 years, which I agree to some extent also. But they are also fighting the war to keep the world in a stable place, if not safe place, So that's what that's my comments, Adityanjee.
Thank you, Ankush. General Kakar, do you have any response to that?
No response. I agree.
Okay. I'm going to invite somebody else. Most people may not have noticed. We have Professor David Sung from China, People's Republic of China, in the audience. And I would invite Professor David Sung to give Chinese perspective on this West Asia war. Professor David Sung, can you come up live?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Your comments from Chinese perspective on West Asian war.
Well, from the ordinary person's perspective of me, I'd like to say that I really hope that all the sides engaged in war should stop to negotiate with each other. We don't like to say the war going on in any part of the world, especially in Middle East. Middle East is really a port for war, and we know that in the past decades there have been turmoils and a lot of wars between the countries, even between the Muslim countries like Kuwait and Iraq. And right now, the war is mainly going on between Israel and other Muslim countries. And, Iran, I'm afraid is, I have to say that Iran is the center of the war. And we also know that some countries, some Arabic countries have joined the war against Iran. So I don't know when it will come to a stop. I really hope that a truce or a ceasefire would be reached between different parts. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor David Sung. We are coming to almost end of this lecture, 4 minutes remaining. So as the moderator, I'll make some comments. Yes, the aims of the war have shifted, the goalposts have shifted, regime change, no regime change, one generation of leaders, second generation of leaders assassinated, still it's the same system that is intact. Second was taking over the oil production, energy resources of Iran. Third was controlling the missiles production. And now the paramount, this thing is keeping the Strait of Hormuz, preventing Iran from charging a toll. But yes, we can charge 20% service fee. So far, we have not highlighted the fact that both Iran and United States have not ratified the UNCLOS. That's the irony. These two countries that are talking about international maritime law, both are non-signatory, non-ratifying states to the UNCLOS. So from what holy ground you want to invoke international maritime rule-based order? That issue we have not discussed, and that tells you the hypocrisy and the hollowness of arguments that are being bandied about. My own impression is that this war is not going to stop. You are seeing periodically there are eruptions. These eruptions will continue. There is no way that a non-resident power can subdue a major resident power in an area with a population of 93 million people and a very strong scientific industrial base, which was started by Shah and which has continued even under the Islamic regime. Whether one likes Islamic regime or not is a different issue. Nobody likes that. One would have liked it to go away, and it would have gone away if this war was not started on February 28th. People would have done their own uprising. And what General Harsha Kakar mentioned is that in a time of national calamity, there's something called rallying to the flag. And that is what people are not realizing in the West, that Iranian people are rallying to the flag. Even the opponents of the Islamic regime at this point in time are not doing anything so that Iran's sovereignty is compromised. I think that is a lesson to learn. It's very easy to get into a war. But if you are not clear, if you are woolly-headed, you end up in a situation like this. So this war is likely to continue, just like Ukraine-Russia war or Ukraine-NATO-Russia war is continuing for last 4 years. This is not anymore a matter of days or weeks. This will continue. So with that, my sincere thanks to Major General Harsha Kakar. My thanks to all the members of the audience, including people I invited for special comments, including Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, Professor David Sung, Professor Reshmi Kazi, Mr. Ankush Bhandari, and other audience members like Saptarishi Basu and Professor Anup Kumar and Dr. Shrikant Chopra. My last vote of thanks is to the team CSA, Mr. Ripudaman Pachori and Mr. Rajiv Verma. These are the two pillars of strength for CSA because they help me organize these programs. And as usual, Major General Harsha Kakar, he is a very astute observer, pretty much writing one article each day. If you see his prolific writings in the domain of strategic affairs, and he is very lucid, very cogent in his arguments. So we benefit from his scholarship. So thank you, sir, from the bottom of my
Thank you,
heart.
sir.
This program has been recorded. It is live streamed on YouTube and it will soon be available on our website. Let's hope the war ends, but it's not going to end. That is my prediction. Thank you very much indeed,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.